Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're really glad you're here because today we are tackling something that feels a bit like a ghost story for the economy.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, you know the usual narrative about artificial intelligence, right? It's this shiny tool, this efficiency engine.
The helpful assistant, the brochure version, certainly. The utopian view where we all, work 3-day weeks and paint in the afternoons.
Exactly. That's the pitch we've been sold for years. But today, we're looking at a reality check that is hitting, well, specifically in the United Kingdom right now, in January 2026.
Right.
We are looking at this divergence where the UK economy is behaving really differently with AI than almost any other major global power.
And it's a divergence that is worrying a lot of people. I mean, we're not talking about some vague sci-fi dystopia or, a prediction for 2050.
Yeah.
We're talking about hard data showing that in Britain, AI isn't just changing jobs, it's actively erasing them faster than it creates them.
So to guide us through this, we have a stack of brand new sources. We're pulling apart a major study from the investment bank Morgan Stanley, reported in The Guardian just today. We've got sentiment data from the recruitment giant Randstad. And we have some incredibly stark warnings from London Mayor Sadiq Khan and the CEO of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon.
And we should just pause on that for a second. I mean, when you have the Labour mayor of London and the head of the world's biggest bank sounding the exact same alarm in the same week, you really have to sit up and pay attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's rare to see that kind of alignment. So our mission today is to answer a very specific question. Why is the UK the outlier?
Right. Why here?
Why is this happening in London and Manchester, but not in New York or Berlin? And if you're listening to this and you have, say, between 2 and 5 years of experience in your field, why should you be arguably the most worried person in the room?
That specific detail, that 2 to 5 years bracket, that's the one that really stops you in your tracks.
We will get to that because it is terrifying. But let's start with the headline numbers. This Morgan Stanley report is the anchor for everything else.
Okay.
They didn't just guess. They surveyed companies across the UK that have been using AI for at least a year. We're talking consumer staples, real estate, healthcare, cars, that kind of thing.
Right. So this isn't a prediction about what might happen. This is a report on what has happened over the last 12 months.
Exactly.
And the headline figure is, well, it's brutal. These British companies reported a net job loss of 8% specifically due to AI.
Let's just unpack net job loss for a second. Because often a company says, oh, we cut 10 jobs here, but we hired 10 AI specialists over there. That would be a wash.
A net neutral, yeah. Or ideally, in a growing economy, you cut 10 admin roles but hire 15 salespeople because the company's booming.
That's positive net growth.
This is the opposite. For every 100 jobs that existed in these sectors a year ago, 8 are gone. Not replaced, not reshuffled, just deleted from the payroll purely because of AI integration.
8%. If you look around your office, I mean, assuming you still have a physical office, that is nearly 1 in 10 people just poof, vanishing.
It's a significant contraction, and here's where it gets strange. The UK is practically the only one seeing this. Morgan Stanley compared this data to the US, Japan, Germany, Australia. In those economies, AI adoption is happening just as fast, sometimes faster.
But the job losses?
Nowhere near this rate. In many cases, they're seeing net neutral or even net positive hiring.
So what is the mystery then? Is the UK just, I don't know, bad at business? Are British companies using the software wrong?
You'd think, right. If you're firing people, it usually means the company is struggling. But here is the paradox, and it is a true economic paradox.
Okay.
The study found that these same British businesses reported an average 11.5% increase in productivity.
Okay, let me get the math straight here. The companies are producing more. They are 11.5% more efficient, but they're employing 8% fewer people.
Precisely. They are doing significantly more with significantly less. Now, compare that to the United States.
Okay.
U.S. companies also saw productivity gains, very similar numbers, actually. But in the U.S., that efficiency was generally used to fuel expansion.
Right. They grew.
They became more productive, so they lowered prices or increased output, grew their market share, which meant they needed to hire more humans to handle the growth.
It's the classic promise of capitalism.
Yeah.
Efficiency lowers costs, which increases demand, which creates jobs. That's the rising tide lifts all boats theory.
Correct. But in the UK, that chain is broken. British firms got the efficiency, but they didn't use it to grow. They used it to consolidate. They used the productivity gain to simply remove the salary costs from the balance sheet.
That is a terrifying decoupling. It suggests that in the UK right now, AI isn't a tool for growth. It's a tool for, what, survival? Or maybe just margin protection.
Which brings us to the core question, why? If the technologies is the same, if a firm in London is using the same large language model as a firm in New York, why is the outcome for the worker so radically different?
This is what we're sort of calling the British disease in this context. And looking at the analysis, it seems the culprit isn't the code at all.
Yeah.
It's the government policy and the economic environment.
It's the soil that the seed lands in. The experts analyzing this report point directly at the cost of employment. In the UK right now, hiring a human being has become significantly more expensive.
We've seen the headlines about this. Unemployment is at a 4-year high. But what are the specific levers making it so expensive?
It's a combination of things hitting all at once. You have sharp rises in minimum wage. You have increases in employer national insurance contributions.
Which is essentially a tax on jobs.
It's a tax on jobs. So if I run a business, every time I hire a person, the government takes a bigger slice, and the baseline salary I have to pay is higher.
The friction cost of a human employee is rising.
Exactly. Now, imagine this happening at the exact same moment that the cost of digital labor AI is plummeting.
It's a pincer movement.
That's a great way to put it. In the U.S., the cost of labor might be stable enough that you think, great, let's expand the department. In the UK, you look at your tax bill and say, I need to shed costs immediately.
And AI becomes the knife you use to cut the payroll.
It changes the motivation entirely. In one scenario, AI is a turbocharger. In the UK scenario, AI is a life raft. The result is that productivity gains don't trickle down.
They stop at the company account. The business gets 11% better. The workforce gets 8% smaller.
It's a grim calculation.
It really is. But I want to move from the boardroom to the break room, because 8% job loss is a statistic. But when you look at the human beings behind that number, the data gets even more worrying for our listeners.
Right. We have this survey from Randstad, the recruitment firm. They polled thousands of workers about how they're feeling, and the mood is, well, anxious is an understatement.
The number I saw was that more than a quarter of UK workers expect to lose their job to AI within just the next 5 years.
1 in 4 people.
1 in 4 people believing their career is on a ticking clock. It's pervasive.
It is. But the demographic breakdown is where the story really gets interesting. You might assume the people most scared are the older generation.
Yeah, the people who aren't as tech savvy. I can't figure out how to convert this PDF demographic.
Exactly. You'd think they'd be sweating. But it's the opposite. The survey shows that the baby boomers, those born between 1946 and 1964, are the most self-assured.
Is that confidence in their skills, or is that just seeing the finish line?
It's almost certainly the finish line. If you're 63, you're thinking, I just need to hold on for 2 more years and then it's golf and grandkids.
Right. You can retire before the robot takes your desk.
You can outrun it.
Yeah.
But look at Gen Z, the digital natives, the generation that grew up with the internet in their pocket. They are the most terrified.
And according to the Morgan Stanley data, their fear is completely rational. This isn't just anxiety, it's reality.
This is the most critical insight from the deep dive today. The study didn't just count how many jobs were cut, it looked at which jobs.
Okay.
And the businesses explicitly stated they were most likely to cut early career jobs.
And they defined that quite specifically, didn't they?
They did. They aren't just talking about the intern fetching coffee. They are targeting roles requiring 2 to 5 years of experience.
2 to 5 years. Let's just think about what that person looks like in a company. They aren't clueless. They've been trained. They know the systems.
They're the ones doing the heavy lifting, the research, the first drafts, the data analysis. They're the doers.
So in a law firm, they're the associates reading the contracts.
In a marketing firm, they're writing the copy. In consultancy, they're building the slide decks. And that is exactly what AI is incredible at.
This creates a massive structural problem, doesn't it? Because if you eliminate the role of the person with 3 years of experience, how does anyone ever get 10 years of experience?
That's the missing middle. We're looking at a potential future where the entry level and junior tiers of the workforce are just deleted.
Gone.
Companies will say, why pay a junior human £35,000 a year to write reports when an LLM does it for pennies?
Short term, that makes perfect sense on a balance sheet. You save money today.
Short term, yes. But long term, you're eating your own seed corn. If you don't train the juniors, you don't generate the seniors.
Who's making the strategic decisions in 10 years? Who is checking the AI's work?
You can't just birth a senior partner at a law firm out of thin air. They have to grind through the junior years to develop judgment.
It's the apprenticeship model. White-collar work has always been a kind of apprenticeship. You watch, you do the grunt work, you learn.
And if the robot does the grunt work, you never learn. You end up with a very small elite of senior experts at the top, an army of AIs in the middle, and, well, what happens to the people who would have occupied those middle rungs?
Well, that's the question. They're either pushed down into low-wage service work that robots can't do yet, or they're pushed out of the economy entirely.
And this brings us to London. Because if there is one place on Earth that relies on those middle-rung, white-collar jobs, it is the city of London.
Which is why Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, used his annual Mansion House speech to practically shout a warning. He called London the sharpest edge of change.
Sharpest edge. That's evocative. He's acknowledging that London is uniquely vulnerable. Think about the London economy. It's not manufacturing.
No.
It's not agriculture. It's almost entirely a knowledge economy. Finance, law, insurance, creative industries, consulting.
All industries built on processing information.
Which is exactly what AI does better, faster, and cheaper than us. In previous industrial revolutions, automation came for the muscles. It came for the weavers, the car builders.
The brain work was safe.
This time, the automation is coming specifically for the brain work.
Khan used some very strong language for a politician. He warned of a new era of mass unemployment.
It's startling language. Mass unemployment is a phrase that conjures images of the 1930s or the early 80s. It's not something you expect to hear about a wealthy, modern city in 2026.
But he's looking at the numbers. If those junior analyst jobs in the skyscrapers disappear, what replaces them? He talked about a moral, social, and economic duty to create new jobs.
But that's the tricky part, isn't it? You can't just legislate a job into existence if the market says it's inefficient.
Especially if businesses are facing that tax squeeze we talked about earlier, they aren't going to hire people out of charity.
No, they won't. And that leads us to the darkest part of our deep dive today. Because if you let this run its course, high youth unemployment, a broken career ladder, you don't just get sad economic graphs.
You get anger.
You get anger. And this is where Jamie Dimon comes in, the CEO of JP Morgan.
A man who is arguably the face of modern global capitalism. He was at the World Economic Forum in Davos last week.
And he wasn't talking about stock prices. He warned that if governments and businesses don't step in to help these displaced workers, we risk civil unrest.
Civil unrest. I mean, we've gone from efficiency gains to riots in the streets in the span of one conversation. That feels like a massive escalation.
It sounds extreme, but follow the logic. If you have a generation, Gen Z, and the one coming after them, who did everything right.
They went to university, took on the debt, got the degrees, they followed the rules.
And then they step out into the world and find the doors welded shut because an algorithm does the job cheaper. And at the same time, they see companies posting record profits because of that efficiency.
That's a recipe for volatility. It's a breach of the social contract. The deal was work hard, get a career, buy a house.
If the career part is removed, the rest of the deal collapses. Dimon is smart enough to see that. He knows business can't thrive in a broken society.
You can't sell mortgages if no one has a job.
He's essentially telling his fellow CEOs and world leaders, you can enjoy these AI profits, but if you don't figure out how to distribute some of that value back, the stability that allows you to make money will evaporate.
It shifts the conversation from economics to survival, not just survival of the worker, but survival of the system itself.
Exactly. If the UK is the test case, the canary in the coal mine with high taxes and high AI adoption, then the rest of the world should be watching London very, very closely.
So let's try to pull this all together.
Yeah.
We have a unique situation in the UK. The technology is delivering, productivity is up 11.5%. But because of the specific tax and cost environment in Britain, companies are using that windfall to fire people, not hire them.
Resulting in an 8% net job loss in affected sectors.
And the people taking the hit are the ones who can least afford it. The early career professionals, the 20-somethings, who need that experience to build a future.
Creating a missing middle in the workforce that threatens the long-term viability of these industries.
And now we have leaders from the mayor of London to the head of JP Morgan warning that if we don't fix this, we're facing social instability.
It's a perfect storm. And it shows that AI isn't just a technology issue. It's a policy issue, a tax issue, and ultimately a human issue.
I want to circle back to something for our listener. If you are sitting there maybe in that 2 to 5 year experience window, this feels heavy. It feels inevitable.
But it isn't inevitable. That's the key. The U.S. data proves it isn't inevitable. Different incentives produce different outcomes.
For the individual right now in the UK,
For the individual, it means the strategy has to change. If the process work is gone, then your value as an employee has to shift to the things the AI is bad at.
which isn't just creativity, right?
Not in the abstract sense. It's judgment, it's ethics, it's
Yeah.
complex negotiation, human connection. It's the ability to look at the AI's output and say, that is technically correct, but it's a terrible idea because it will alienate our client.
So the role becomes less about generating and more about curating and managing.
Exactly. But the problem, as we discussed, is getting the experience to have that judgment in the first place. That's the catch-22 we have to solve.
I want to leave you with a thought today that really struck me while we were compiling these sources. We often talk about the knowledge economy as the future.
It's been the buzzword for 30 years.
Right.
Did a code, get a degree.
Right. But if AI devalues knowledge, if knowing facts and processing information becomes basically free, then what is the economy actually based on? If the safe path of law, finance, and consulting is now the most vulnerable, what does a safe career even look like in 2030?
It might be that the safe jobs are the ones that require dirty hands and human empathy. The things a server farm can't simulate. We might see a reversal where the trades become the secure elite.
And the office workers become the precarious class. Are we moving toward a future where GDP skyrockets, the country looks rich on paper, but the vast majority of people are locked out?
The ultimate decoupling. Wealth without work. It sounds like utopia, but without a plan, it looks a lot like crisis.
That is the question we need to be asking. Not what can AI do, but who is the economy actually for?
A vital distinction.
That's it for today's deep dive. We'll be back next time with another stack of sources. Until then, keep an eye on the data and maybe check in on your junior colleagues.
They might need it, indeed.
See you next time.